The rest will be in English, so you can play in English.
Hi everyone. Je suis donc ravie de vous accueillir à l'école Camondo Méditerranée, donc le centre culturel suisse Antwerp. C'est aussi le moment de nos diplômes, l'exposition de nos diplômes ici, donc un moment voilà, joyeux de célébration de réussite. Et voilà, on a ce moment avec vous qui nous permet de poursuivre la réflexion sur des sujets passionnants et spatiaux. Donc le centre culturel suisse Antwerp et l'école d'architecture de Versailles, le LéaV, pour un moment d'échange sur la question d'habitat en claustrophilie, phobie, voilà. Et je passe la parole à Annalisa. Merci à tous d'être là. Et
Merci pour l'accueil. Donc, et bienvenue à toutes et à tous à la deuxième rencontre du cycle Habiter en claustrophilie, fabrique, pratique et critique de l'intérieur, qui était lancé par les trois institutions partenaires que la directrice de l'école Camondo a rappelé tout à l'heure. Donc, l'école Camondo, le LéaV, qui est le laboratoire de recherche de l'école d'architecture de Versailles, et le centre culturel suisse. Donc, c'est un cycle de rencontre qui vise à questionner qu'est-ce que c'est que concevoir un intérieur aujourd'hui, un intérieur dans ses multiples facettes, dans ses multiples déclinaisons, donc un espace d'exposition, un vaisseau spatial, ou un refuge d'autres attitudes dans des paysages extrêmes, une chambre d'hôpital, etc. Donc l'intérieur, bon, vous savez bien, c'est un champ d'exercice, d'expérimentation, plutôt, je dirais, d'un métier qui a connu des évolutions différentes en France et en Suisse, ce qui explique le regard entre ces deux postures et ces deux manières d'aborder le sujet, donc la conception de l'intérieur. Un champ autant, je dirais, de dispute, de collaboration, de partage, et qui ont le mérite de déclencher des transferts de savoir et de méthodes qui visent notamment le bien-être des habitants, donc le bien-être, le bonheur, je dirais, comme Emanuele Coccia dit, nous enseigne. Alors, ce cycle, juste pour vous donner un peu le cadre, ce cycle Habiter en claustrophilie constitue la troisième étape d'un projet de recherche qui a été lancé par l'école Camondo et le LéaV en 2019. Les intérieurs aujourd'hui, méthode de production et d'analyse interdisciplinaire qui a débuté à l'automne 2019, donc avec ce colloque international dont les actes sont en train finalement, sont en cours d'impression. Et c'est un projet de recherche qui s'est poursuivi au printemps 2022 dans un second colloque international et transdisciplinaire. Là, Charlotte a insisté justement sur ce côté transdisciplinaire, donc intitulé claustrophilie, et voilà que la notion elle apparaît en 2022 de claustrophilie, les univers de la claustration entre désir et transgression. Et c'est à cette occasion que nous sommes penchés sur cette notion qui en effet était affleurée déjà pendant le premier colloque de 2019 et qui nous avait intrigués. Donc claustrophilie, c'est une tendance morbide à vivre dans des lieux enfermés, dans des lieux isolés, qui avait été théorisée par un psychologue italien qui s'appelle Et ce colloque de claustrophilie visait à convoquer autour de la table un large panel de disciplines observatoires, je dirais, de ce phénomène, de cet univers de la claustrophilie, pour saisir les effets, les multiples effets sur la manière, sur l'aménagement des espaces, sur la manière dont les claustrophiles, en effet, qui façonnent leurs espaces, investissent leurs espaces. Alors aujourd'hui, grâce à l'exploration des intérieurs de navettes et de vaisseaux, on entre dans quelques sujets. Alors, dans ces matrices spatiales qui devraient, à mon avis, inoculer le sentiment de la claustrophilie pour permettre la survie aux habitants de ces comment on pourrait dire, des chez-soi temporaires, mais extrêmement réduits. Je vous présente les intervenants. Charlotte Poupon, designer, responsable des enseignements de l'ANSI, les ateliers, ancienne Camondo, parce qu'elle a assuré la direction de la pédagogie pendant plusieurs années, et autrice de la thèse du sous-marin nucléaire aux défis martiens, un regard de designer sur la sensorialité des individus en situation d'isolement et de confinement. Elle est aussi chercheuse au LéaV. Et c'est à elle de modérer l'échange entre Andreas Vogler, architecte suisse et spécialiste de l'école, de l'architecture spatiale, et que je remercie d'avoir accepté d'être avec nous aujourd'hui, et Emanuele Coccia, donc qui va se connecter, donc sera présent par Zoom. Emanuele est philosophe, l'auteur de la dernière publication. Elle est intitulée Philosophie de la maison, l'espace domestique et le bonheur, et que je remercie vivement, évidemment. Et je suis très reconnaissante à la directrice de l'école Camondo Toulon, Margaret Iraghi, pour l'accueil. Je suis reconnaissante à mes collègues Claire et Alexis pour les échanges toujours fluides, toujours très agréables, passionnantes, enrichissantes. Et je remercie vivement les organisatrices de cet événement, donc Lola Bezrest, Margot Ilescas et Elena Bolida. Donc, et je remercie évidemment le public qui nous a rejoints ce matin. Donc je passerai la parole à Charlotte qui ouvre la danse, qui va officier de cette séance.
Can I sit? Yes. So I invite us to turn in English because it's easier for Andreas to speak English. So it also gives us the opportunity to be all like astronauts. It means speaking English, either it's not our native language. Also cooperating between different disciplines such as design, architecture, philosophy, engineering, science, so it will be also very interesting. Also with Emanuele, possibly on Zoom, we should experiment trouble in transmission, like it might happen with astronauts, and it's not such a big deal, the mission has to go on, so our mission would have to go on. And also, it's a personal opinion from extreme environment aspect. It's something like 33 degrees outside, so we can pretend we are all better inside, exactly like on Mars, or Moon, or space. So I just introduce, well, Annalisa introduced Andreas, so maybe you can start your presentation. That should last something like 1 hour, and then we shall either exchange with Emanuele, that will be on Zoom, as I told you, or just have a discussion all together. Of course, I have a couple of questions that are really interesting for me, but it would be great also if you can participate and ask the question. You can ask the question in French, in English, Italian should have translators, Spanish or German. So, welcome on Spain. The only language we are not there to speak is Klingon, but next time I promise we will.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go right into the topic and take you a little bit off the planet with a very fascinating topic, kind of space architecture, or how you make people not only survive in space, but also live in space. So I was introduced, just to come back again, I'm Swiss, I'm born in Basel, I live in Munich today in Germany. I had my education at the Swiss Polytechnical School in Zurich as an architect, but I was always interested also in other fields, in mobility, so I came to space architecture. I'm gonna show some work. I was working in London, and then after the architect I worked for, Richard Horton, he became professor in Munich, where I was scientific assistant at the Technical University, and where we started some space programs. But I also have done work in aircraft interior, which I'm not going to show now, and also train interiors. So basically I'm interested in mobility and how people live in moving objects. And also a couple of work has been exhibited, also obviously in France, which was very nice, in Centre Pompidou Paris and Cité d'Espace at Toulouse. And this is like half a century ago. That's why I was so pleased when I got this invitation to come to Toulon. This is actually me. And you see the little seaman's cap with Toulon. I was very proud on it. So nearly about half a century ago, close to here. You see, I worked together with different companies, agency, also Corsair France, Thales Alenia. But let's go right into it. And I usually show these slides at the end of my lectures, but I pull it right in front. And Atlas Colesti 0G was a sculpture we did, and we had an office together with my former partner Arturo Vittori, who is Italian, and we did a lot of great projects together. We split about 10 years ago, but we had the opportunity to design this sculpture for microgravity and actually fly it. And it was a kind of praise for the invention of the telescope by Galileo Galilei in 1609, and it was 400 years. Here you see a painting with Galileo, and they had these kind of models of the sky, this Atlas Colestis, sky atlases. And this is his famous book, where he has first drawn the moons of Jupiter, which he discovered with the telescope. So it's, and we all know about Galilei and the kind of the process he had, the quarrel he had with the church, who still believe, no, the Earth is not circling around the sun, but the Earth is the center. Before that, we thought the Earth is a flat disk and it's not a sphere. So these are the seminal kind of paradigm change in humanity when we look at things differently. When we start to look at our own life from outside, and we start to understand that it may be different than we actually perceive it. And the similar effect is happening when you go to space. So we made this little sculpture, and we were able to fly it on the last flight of the Endeavour shuttle, and we have a nice movie, and I hope the sound is playing. Yes.
Six, 4, 3, 2, 0, and liftoff for the final launch of Endeavour.
Roger, roll, Endeavour.
So you see that with this sculpture, which was a model of the solar system, in fact, but should show the beauty of movement which you have in microgravity, we are just at the beginning of exploring the solar system, exploring space. It's now a bit more than 50, 60 years we've flown to space, but we are really just at the beginning. And future generations will have a completely different outlook to that, what is out there. And looking outside makes you look different, looking back to the inside. So I'm coming to some studies, and you see on the left the kind of famous drawing of the neutral body position out of NASA's Manned Systems Integration Standards. It's kind of the Neufeld architect's data of space flight. And you see why I'm dressed like this. It corresponds with the drawing, short trousers, because what is the environment like in a space station? It's a machine, basically. It's a machine, and all machines, they have not 100% efficiency, so where they're not efficient, they produce heat. So actually, we have a closed environment. So at the space station, in the space station, is actually can get quite warm, and also the air doesn't move naturally, because here where we have gravity, warm air is rising and cold air is falling, which makes our whole weather on the planet, a whole movement of air. In microgravity, the air doesn't have a weight. It just stays where it is. So, for instance, when you sleep in microgravity, there's a sphere of carbon dioxide building up in front of your mouth, and you're in risk of getting a headache. So how do you prevent that? You need artificial ventilation. You need fans circling the air, and one astronaut once described it: to live in the space station, it's like in a vacuum cleaner. So, so it's also loud, all these machines, they produce noise. But anyway, you have this free movement in microgravity, it's beautiful, but it's also very hard to do something useful, because everything you touch, if I would touch this table, I would move in the other direction. So I would find myself in the middle of the room, and if I can't grab anything, I'm lost, I'm just hanging there. So what you can do, you can take the shoe off and throw the shoe away to give you a back impulse. That's what actually happened at Skylab once, because Skylab was done very big, and that's also why the ISS has rather small spaces. So you always can grab. And you see, how do they do that? The astronauts, they have these rails, and they just cling with their feet under the rails, so they kind of have a stable, more or less stable position. So that was something which we looked at with our students at Technical University in Munich, and this was starting in the last century, 98, when the first module of the ISS went up, and at that time there was still a habitation module planned for the ISS. So I thought, habitation, maybe we can contribute something as architects, and I contacted the aerospace engineers, and they were very open to do something together. They brought us in touch with NASA, and we had 2 semesters with the students which were kind of absolutely extraordinary. We designed the whole habitation module. On the left, you see architects, they like it white and clean. But actually, on the right, you see an image of Mir space station. So you see the reality, how it is, because it's very difficult to keep order over there. You see, you have to attach everything, because if you don't attach something, it slowly will move away through the mechanical ventilation of the air, and you see the messy environment, you wouldn't see it. So the astronaut said, if you lose your watch or something, don't look for it, just look 2 days later at the intake of the ventilation. So you may find it. So it's really a different world, but for habitation it's interesting. You see how humans, how they kind of create their space. And it's not all technical what they need. They have an onion growing over here. Maybe for food, there's a little Russian icon up there. And if you observe these images, you find all these small indications how the astronauts, they make their own space. And the astronaut is only allowed to take 1.5 kilograms of personal things with them on a mission. Our sculpture was 200 grams, so and flat packed, so it was easy. And we have all these conditions. So with our student, we designed this kind of space table or space chair, which allows restraining yourself between these plates and have a working table in the same time, which NASA, they liked the idea very much, and they offered us to fly a prototype in a parabolic flight. We did tests underwater before, but it was never adapted at the end of the day, but we were able to test it in flight. And how these parabolic flights work, you take a big Boeing machine, you rip it out, make an empty space, and then you fly full speed up, and you fall over on top, and during that moment you have weightlessness for about 20-25 seconds. And then you come down and you pull the aircraft up again, and in the lower lower part of the parabola, you have W weight. So you're pressed on the floor. But that's how you can, that's also how many Hollywood movies are made in microgravity to do with these flights. So it's very fascinating, but you should be careful not to move your head too much because suddenly you get disorientated and you get sick. That's why they also call it the vomit comet. So, but students, we designed also with the students kind of shower in space. Personal hygiene is very, very important in that environment. And there are a lot of psychological aspects in extreme environment, how you perceive your own body. For instance, on longer missions, it's extremely important to have a mirror. Okay, women are more sensitive to that than men, to stand in front of the mirror, but also men, if you don't have from time to time your self-image in the mirror, it's psychologically not so good on the long term. So a mirror is very important, but also personal hygiene. And we made this kind of toilet cabinet, and we made a prototype for a shower. You can imagine in microgravity, you cannot just take a shower. The water would go everywhere, and it could be dangerous. You have electricity there, you have shortcuts and other things. But the students came up with a system which is pressing water onto a sponge, and then on the same time it's a suction device around which takes it back again. And this is actually water in microgravity. It kind of has this bubbly shape, kind of like chewing gum. Between her fingers here you see bubble, because it's the cohesive and adhesive forces of water which define the shape. And here you see models. On the right side, it was the kind of engineering flying model. On the left side, the design model. And there are actually many reasons for the shape of this. I know it looks a little bit like a rubber duck, but also it should be a joyful element, but it also has many practical reasons. The students, they did many tests, how you hold the thing so you can clean your back, and how you have a kind of an edge you can scratch or stuff like this. So there's a lot of thoughts in these objects. Now this was the start, how I came to space architecture, and I show you now something which has less to do with habitation also, but which is a very recent project, a study we did for European Space Agency, just submitted a few weeks ago, and it was about how to design solar power satellites. And these are satellites, they collect sunlight in the orbit, make it to electricity and beam it to the Earth by microwave. And this during the night and during cloudy weather all the time. And we studied how would it be to build this on the moon. And it was very interesting study team. Arthur Woods, he's an American living in Switzerland. He's an artist. He has had a sculpture on the Mir space station, but he's also really a space expert. He's a very fascinating man. And also Patrick Collins, he lives in Japan, he's British, but he's really one of the top experts for space tourism. And he also did his PhD on solar power satellite. And Dimitris Gasperovic, he's from Latvia, and he's an extremely skilled animator. He's really an artist. You will see a movie, it's beautiful things he does.
Welcome to the Greater Earth Lunar Power Station. We are going to the moon to build components for solar power satellites from lunar materials, which could help mitigate the launch bottleneck and the environmental impact of launching many solar power satellites from the surface of Earth. This is a multi-trillion euro opportunity which addresses the climate and energy crises on Earth. Can you think of a better reason to go to the moon?
So you see, it's a very big vision. But we started all the ideas from the late 60s, the 70s, when there were is it on there? Where there were these dreams of building space colonies, Sherra, O'Neill, and other ones. And we got deep into scientific literature. And we made up a complete new thing. Like before, it was all about mass drivers on the moon. We came up with the space elevator, and this is more like a whole system architecture which we developed. And also creating a business case why to go to the moon, because today's moon programs, they don't really have a business case. They say, maybe now we don't just send 3 men, maybe we send a woman, we send people of color, so we send some people there so people can do something interesting on the moon, which is all okay. It's science and exploration, but it's not, how should I say, sustainable, because you do it when you have the money. But actually, there is a potential business case go to the moon if you can produce power satellites and deliver energy back to Earth, green energy. And there's so much happened in technology the last 10 years in robotics and in artificial intelligence that now we are there, we could start working on a complete robotic mission to go to the moon. Because although I'm an architect, I design environments for people, I actually think it's a very bad idea to send people to the moon. Because it's a very hostile environment. or the moon is a harsh mistress, how Heinlein put it, the author. So, but today we have robotics. We can do it with robots, much cheaper. In our planning, we just have 3 people on the moon to troubleshoot the robots if they don't work. And you also have to understand that in spaceflight, a human mission costs about 10 times as much as a robotic mission, because all the safety elements, safety standards are much, much, much higher if you have humans. We don't want to lose humans in a space mission. So, but anyway, we designed the whole cislunar transportation system. I won't go into depth. And the system architecture, kind of what you do on the moon, you mine, you process, you make materials, you produce solar cells on the moon and structural elements, and you assemble the parasatellites at the liberation point between the moon and the Earth. That's a point where the gravity of the moon and the Earth are balanced, so it's relatively stable. But anyway, we would also plan a habitat in this satellite, and here's just kind of a basic diagram of a habitat. Basically, you need a radiation shielding, because probably the most harmful thing in spaceflight, and this is not for low Earth orbit, because there we still have the protection of the magnetic field of the Earth, but as soon as you go beyond low Earth orbit, you're exposed to the radiation. There's cosmic radiation coming from all the stars around you, and these are billions, trillions. And there is the sun radiation, which is actually quite harmful for human beings. It's like radioactivity, basically. And it goes through everything. Like, you can protect with mass, with water. These are basically the concept. And inside you have different functions. We can come back to these. But this was more the microgravity environment. Now, let's go to surface missions like Mars. You know that there are many ideas. It's like, at least during my life, the next Mars mission was always in 20 years. And let's see, maybe that Elon Musk, maybe he does it. It will be fascinating. Mars is a relatively friendly environment. It has an atmosphere. But it's very, very low pressure. It's less than 1% than here on Earth. So we would need a suit to go out to breathe oxygen and keep our brains together. It can be very nice. On a nice summer day on the equator, you can get up to 16 degrees. It's very, very nice. But usually during night, this is -100 and more. So it's very cold. But it's an interesting planet to explore. And we did, so already a while ago as well, develop with an engineer from Astium a kind of new rover type, a pressurized rover is called, which would be like a caravan for 2 astronauts to travel up to 2 weeks on Mars and explore it. So it would have life support systems for up to 2 weeks. It has these funny wheels that the usual rover has, like small wheels and a cylinder on top. We looked at these big wheels because we don't have paved roads on the Mars. So it's better to use big wheels, and we have these kind of special wheels where you also can drive sideways, so you can dock on the side. Here's a visual sketch of the interior. We actually did plan the interior, but we never made a computer 3D model out of it. So we used the sketch, but we have a little animation.
Apparently Houston's seeing pictures are not feeding to us yet.
Hey, you're right.
There they are.
Alma's on the surface, and it's been a long way, but we're here. Okay, fun as I stand out here in the wonders of the unknown at Hadley. I try to realize there's a fundamental truth to our nature. Man must explore. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So, but I take you a little bit to the habitats on Mars. That was also student projects we did with students at the Technical University in Munich, 2002. So the renderings are not how you can do them today. Computers were slow. But anyway, a Mars mission, how would the Mars mission look? You would probably, the first crew, you would probably send them in a cylinder not more than 8 meter diameter, because bigger the rockets would be very difficult to fly through the atmosphere. So 8, 9 meter is about what is reasonable. So it's a pressure vessel, so it's a cylinder. You have atmosphere inside, you have 2 stories, you have to land it. So, but there you would talk about the crew of 6 people. And now Mars is not always very close to Earth. It's quite close every 2 years. So you would wait the launch window when Mars is close, then you fly there about 4 to 6 months, depending on the system. You have the propulsion system, and then you would land. You come out of microgravity. Your muscles, if you didn't do your training daily, your muscles will be degraded. You know the images when they carried the Apollo astronauts back from the moon. They had to carry them because they had. And that's so fascinating about life. All things alive, if you don't use it, it degrades. If you don't use your muscles, they go. If you don't use your bones, they degrade. And if you don't use your brain, it degrades as well. Yes? So it's very important this, but then you land on Mars, and then you have to start putting up your equipment and everything. So it's a big problem already when you land. But then you have the choice: either you stay 2 weeks and you fly back, because then Mars is still close to Earth, or you stay 2 years all around until you can fly back. And that is an extreme mission. And then it's getting very hard. What is the right planning? Because science also doesn't really have an answer on that. So that's where it gets really exciting. We build models, but here's some planned studies. How do you organize this space? And this will be the upper level of the tool. So how do you organize this common public and private space? How do you allow people to retract into privacy, and how to live together? Because it's really extreme. I mean, it's light construction. You hear everything, you know, like with 6 people, you know them. If you live for 2 years in a capsule like this with 6 people, you can imagine it's really extreme. Although still the same principles which we know on Earth, they play, but it's just you have to design these thresholds between privacy and public or social on a much more narrow space. Here we have a design arrangement like this, so everybody had its own room. But you could also open the partition walls, so 2 people, they could have a private conversation. Because psychologically, that's very important, you know, in a team, 6 people, extreme. You sometimes, you know it all, you get upset, or you're not the same opinion, but you have to make a decision, but this guy doesn't want, and oh my goodness. And it's very helpful in these situations when then you can sit together with somebody else and just say, what an asshole, why he doesn't do that, you know, and just get all your stress out, and then it's fine again. So you have to accommodate for these situations. Or we're talking about mixed crews these days. And if you send a mixed crew 2 years to Mars, you're probably going to have the first baby born in space. But what if the engineers didn't calculate the amount of oxygen for an additional human being? It can get quite extreme. Or somebody dies on a heart attack. How psychologically you deal with that? You bring the body back, you can't, because it's a closed environment and you don't want to have a corpse there, so you have to get it out. Do you bury it en masse? This just to say that situations of daily life, which we all know, put an extreme pressure on this team if they're not trained for it. And it's very important to train astronauts. It's not always done to that extent, because up to date, we only have short-time missions. Okay, there were people's 1 year on the Mir or anything, but these were kind of cowboy missions. It's not the future of space flight. So you have to get extremely into that. And anyway, for these cabins, I think you have a very limited choice of materials in these closed environments. You can't paint things, because paint, first, many materials, they have off-gassing, so they release chemical molecules into the air, which is all recirculated, and they can be harmful for you. Or you have chip effects that, like, paints come off, and little chips of paint, especially in microgravity, they float around, they get in your lungs, and it's no good. So what you can do as a designer, you can organize the space, but you can also use illumination to vary the space, to give a different feeling of space. If you have light, like on daytime, light from above, or you have a more kind of hard shadow atmosphere, you can play with that, and you need this differentiation, because one big problem in extreme environments, submarines, is sensory deprivation. That, as I said before, living things, you don't use it, it degrades. If your senses are not activated, it has a psychological effect on you. Because here on Earth, we have weather, we have sun, we have rain, it's always changing, the light, we have night, we can go outside, inside, easy, and our senses are always activated. But already, if you're in small spaces and the maximum distance you can look is 2 meters, already your eyes start to change. You can adapt harder to a wide view, and many effects like this, which are really a challenge. And well, you could think, okay, you can take your space suit and go for a walk. Yes, you can, but you breathe in pure oxygen there. And the spacesuit pressure is only 1/3 of normal pressure. So you have the effect like going very fast on a very high mountain, the Mont Blanc, or whatever. You collapse if it's too fast, or while diving, if you come up too quickly. The same effect you have in a spacesuit. You have to do a pre-breathing, it's called, for about 1 hour at least. You sit there and you just get your body accustomed breathing pure oxygen and lowering the pressure. So it's not something that's just let's go out and have fun. So on the moon, the environment is even worse, because you don't have any atmosphere. It's pure vacuum. Boom. Nothing to survive there. You can have, I don't know the precise number, but guess you can have 120 degrees on the sunny side of this dome and minus 170 in the dark side. And the shadows are black. Because here the shadows, you see something in the shadows because you obviously have the reflection of the blue sky in the shadow, which gives you light into the shadow. Here the sky is black, so you don't have any light in the shadow, so you have to be careful when you step. So even in daytime you need a torch to walk around. It's really, and you have all this dust, and then this extreme temperature difference is creating electrostatical effects of little dust particles. They're flowing around there, and it's very special environment. But the moon base, okay, in space you should use, because it's so difficult or so expensive to carry stuff from Earth to space. You need a lot of rocket fuel to do that. You should use what you have, like this termite hill. And that was the idea of this inflatable space station. You similar like the one you did. So inflatables are a good idea in space, because you want to have everything compact to launch it through the rocket. But then with human missions, you want to have space once you're there. So, since you need a pressurized atmosphere, inflatable is basically a good idea. This one, we then used regolith to fill it, to have a radiation protection, which you see here. Again, the environment, yes, temperatures from 123 degrees plus to minus 233. You have micrometeorites coming and bombing your structure. You have cosmic radiation, which you need to protect the people from. And you also have moonquakes. So, yeah, they're not very strong, and I think that I actually don't know how much the scientists know about it, but there are effective moonquakes. So you build up all this structure, and then you have a big space, which is nice, and how you organize could look like this from outside. And I think I have an old video from it, which I show you, although it's not that excellent, but it was all rendered on a laptop at that time. It's even in French, because I think we showed it in Toulouse at the Cité d'Espace. is an idea. I think it's interesting also to explore much more how it could look, because you have a very limited choice on materials. You can use aluminium, maybe anodized aluminium, because then the color is in the surface, it's not like paint. And you have Nomex, because the other problem beyond off-gassing and chipping of particles is fire protection. Dominates all. You don't want materials which burn up there, because, and actually it's the same if you design aircrafts or trains, the fire protection is dominating everything. Even in architecture, you have to be very aware of fire protection codes, because if you do something wrong there, it can become very expensive in planning, but also very dangerous. So always think of fire. Well, on the moon we have gravity, so housekeeping is easier. The dust falls down to the floor, and you lose anything, you can collect it on the floor. So we did several of kind of moon studies. This is a real shot. It's already about more than 15 years old, by a Japanese mission of a Earthrise on the moon. So how the planet Earth, like we see the sun in the morning or the moon coming up, is kind of the Earth rising. And this picture from the Apollo picture, people say, probably has contributed more to the environmental movement than anything else. To see how small and lost in the vast space our blue planet is. And it's something really, if you go to space and you have to make people survive in space, you create a lot of respect to our environment, which we have here on Earth, which gives us everything. So there are plannings to go to the South Pole. We did some studies how to make a first moon base, moon village on the South Pole, because on the South Pole you have potentially eternal light, because the sun goes to the poles all the time, and you have also, scientifically it's very interesting to go there, to go into the craters. So we designed this moon village, where I will not go into detail, but you know, it's a little bit similar like these medieval cities, not because you have enemies like aliens coming, but you kind of have everything kind of compact and together, and you control your resources. And you have these blue things, they are light collectors, inflatable, they bring in light into the greenhouses. Or another study for moon settlement 2069, which is more modular. The idea was you build up big domes which you put regolith in, so you have a basic radiation protection. Then you have light collectors which bring the light in, illumination. And then you have all these modules inside, and you can move there without being worried about radiation protection inside. And it could be modular expanded. And this is a section cut how it could look with the kind of greenhouses here, which the plants, on one hand, you need them to recycle your water, to recycle your oxygen. It's like a little planet on its own. You need them to create food, but you also need them for psychological reasons. To see something grow, to see green is very important for us. And in extreme environments, you kind of learn to understand where you come from as a human being. And it's from this nature which we have. It sounds very big, but it is like this. It's a pure fact. I go quickly with that. That was a study for moon rover, which we did with Thales Alenia. Also a pressurized rover. But there was not really an interior, but it shows you. that a bit because maybe more interesting for you as interior designers. This was a program where we worked on for a rocket plane. That there was a group of people that were planning, some Swiss and some German people. They were planning to have space tourism from Switzerland and Germany, basically with a rocket plane. You fly up to about 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface. That's where officially space starts, and where you already can see the black of space. So it's very fascinating. I mean, today we have it with Jeff Bezos and Virgin Galactic. They stopped, but anyway. So what do? You design a space with very big windows, because people, they want to see. That's from the people view. The engineers would tell you, wait a moment, an airplane is a pressure vessel. A window is a very bad idea, and if a window, please, a very small one. And there was this famous battle, apparently, between LéaV and the Apollo engineers to put a window into the Apollo capsule, which at the end of the day it was life-saving at Apollo 13, where they had to navigate over the window for a short moment. Anyway, it is true, the engineers are right, it is a kind of critical element, but also, let's say, the designers or the people are right, the window is important. We as human beings, we like to orientate, we like to see where we are. So, and especially if you pay a lot of money for a space tourism flight to see space outside, to float in microgravity for a while. So we looked at this. You have an environment with no screws, no edges where you could hit your knee or whatever, because you float and then you fall back. But you want also to restrain, you want to grab on your seat, or you want to hold on the window. So we would have a kind of a soft, hard material around the window where you can put your hand in and hold your position and move around or whatever without being harmful. And you probably also would have these helmets, you probably also would have an oxygen mask directly in your suit, because you probably would fly at low pressure. So the engineer tell you, well, if you want windows, but let's please lower the pressure in the aircraft. So we can design it better. I come back to that. I really have to hurry up. I told you I can talk hours about it. Just to show you, this was another project we designed together with the Technology Transfer Office at European Space Agency, looking at some technology, how to use them on Earth. And we went to the desert, another extreme environment. And yeah, I won't go into depths in that, but the reason it has this shape, with this chimney taking air in from top, is that air on Earth is layered. You have radiation heating, you have convection exchange, so the higher up you are, the cooler the air gets. And in the desert, this is already a few meters. There's a reason camels have their nose and their water bag so high. Because at the feet you can have 60 degrees in the desert, and up there is maybe already 24. So there's a very big temperature differences. So we built this tent where we have a little solar powered fan which is blowing cooler air from the top into the tent, so you can survive the heat. Because it's in midday, you shouldn't walk in the desert, you walk at night, because it's much too hot. So looked like this, was exhibited in the Museum of Modern Arts. And another extreme example was a competition for a Chinese mobile phone company. A little bit an example how this inside-outside world could manifest in a building where you create this big spaceship-like looking office building, but which has an inner world, like with the laboratory, where it's basically the brain of the company, where they think out new things. You have this laboratory and you can understand it a little bit like a space station. So, but now I come to some reflections about, because we as architects, we are always in between this role of engineer and artist, and we try to combine it and work in between, and also communicate between the extremes. So, but if you have long duration space flight, you have to think, shouldn't we train astronauts as artists as well, to kind of have a connection to the place where they are. And you know that science was actually born out of art. In the Renaissance time, people did beautiful sketches observing nature and studying nature, and this ability to draw and to make science, it was one. It was not separated. The engineering profession only kind of exists since 200 years. Before, it was architects or other ones who made big buildings, and it was also this unity of art, drawing, and making, construction, and building. Although engineering as a scientific profession enabled us to do amazing things, amazing things. We can fly to space, not possible without the brilliant scientists and engineers which we have. It's also important we bring this other aspect back to our engineering, to our technical world. We bring beauty back into technology, or also psychology is very important. And probably you know the Maslow pyramid of being needs, that you start with the physiological needs, what you need to survive. And this, and what is the most precious thing you need to survive? Well, you could say love, but that's higher up the pyramid. But you die after 3 minutes if you don't have air. You die after 3 days if you don't have water. You probably die after 3 weeks if you don't have food. And all this, our planet is giving to us. And we long time thought it's for free and we can exploit it, but I think today we're reaching a limit to understand that we are in a balanced system. And we better integrate into this balanced system than not. But anyway, I'm showing this. I once was in a discussion in a space meeting where they had psychologists presenting and engineers. So I finished, but anyway, the psychologists, they were fighting about what theory they should employ. What theory is adaptable to a spaceship? And the engineers, they were just, oh my goodness, I want to know what hole I have to put where. And it was completely, and as an architect, I kind of could communicate between both. So I think I better stop here, but I just wanted to share something like home, feeling home. We all have a personal idea about what home is for us. But how would I describe an engineer what home is? You have to build a home, because it's so difficult to put it into words, into scientific formulas. It is a feeling, it is an understanding each individual has for themselves, but how to make it, to engineer a home is nearly impossible. So I stop with that. Thank you very much.
We have Emanuele Coccia, who wrote a book in French, well, at least presented in French, Philosophie de la maison, philosophy of homes, house. So I really hope you enjoy Andreas' presentation, and you jump deep into your subject, which is philosophy. And I would like to know, from your point of view, the philosophy of home, la philosophie de la maison. Can we be happy? Can we experiment happiness, joy in space home?
So thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Sorry for not being there. I'm in another space because of a couple of problems. And thank you, Andreas, for your amazing presentation. So the question is very complex. First of all, because I would say that in the space, actually, at least in this kind of shapes, you're not at home in the sense that you are traveling. It's more like a boat or a train or a car. And we never think to be at home in a car or in a train. I mean, you have to feel comfortable, but it's never a home, or because we normally suppose that home is something fixed or stable, or yeah, which is not moving. So then perhaps the first step to do would be, what does it mean to have a moving home, a caravan, or something which is no more linked to a fixed space, which is a landscape, so a context and environment. I just wanted to say that concerning what Andreas said at the very end about the fact that it's impossible to engineering. So the engineering homes, it's impossible. I would say it's quite the opposite. It's just that it's another form of engineering in the sense that each of us is engineering their own homes. It is called bricolage. It is called like it's a sort of patchwork of practices, objects. But every single day we add something, we throw something. So it's a home. It's par excellence the space of engineering. It's a personal one, a very practical one, but it's an engineering which is, because it's, Andrea said, it's difficult to make with precision. This is exactly the point. Engineering at home is never linked with precision. It's an engineering which refuses to coincide with precisions, and also with something that has to work at home. There is a very interesting writing by an old German philosopher of the last century, whose name is Alfred Sohn-Rethel, and he, like a lot of German philosophers at that time, or intellectuals at the time, during the 20s of the last century, because of German economic situation, went to Neapel and Capri and Ischia to spend some years, and he wrote a text about the relationship of people in Napoli, and technology. The title was Das Ideal des Kaputten, so the ideal of the broken down. And the text starts with a very, very interesting sentence, which is, in Neapel, the things start work when they are broken. So I would say homes are always a space, a sort of space where are open to different kind of use or different type of destination, and we are always in a way changing the functioning and the function of things at home. So homes is a space where engineering is dealing with the fact of having the chance all the time to be broken. So that's why perhaps it's so difficult. But it's not because it's difficult to engineer a home. It's just because, as Andreas said, at a certain point in the space, things cannot be broken. By at home, things are all the time broken and remade or rearranged, shaped in a different form, and so on. And this is the fact that you are dealing with reshaping of the space. It's a very important part of happiness at home. I would say that this is a key. You cannot be happy in a place if you're not allowed to change something. So this is something which is like we make this kind of experience in an hotel where you're not supposed to move, to change, to rearrange, to give a personal touch. And this is why sometimes it's so difficult to stay in an hotel. So an important point of happiness at home is the fact that you are allowed to change, to shape, to engineering the space following also your mood. So this would be a first point. The second point is just sorry, Charlotte, it's not just a direct question answer to your question, but I was struck by the presentation by Andrea and by the general theme of the topic today, the claustrophilia, So just a couple of ideas. First of all, the very concept, the ecological concept of environment was created by, like in the States, essentially, in the past century, starting from the contemporary concept of environment, starting from the 50s, 60s, in a very close connection with the kind of research that Andrea is doing. It was the NASA that funded a huge amount of research about environment, and starting from the moment, because of the start of spaceship program. So ecology, in a way, deliver a sort of key in order to understand how life on other planets was possible. And I'm telling that because the idea of a closed environment, which could be which is not so close to our experience, it's actually the very, how can I say that? It's the idea, the typical idea of ecology. So every environment has been thought, even if it's not the case, as something closed. And there is an amazing, you probably know that, but there is an amazing book by Livia Callipoliti, who also wrote, who also, in a way, gave a sort of panorama of reviews of all those projects by architects that try to make a closed environment. So this is just to say there is a problem even in ecology, because we are all the time considering, even in ecology, the environment, in order to be an environment, has to be closed, has to be, in a way, controlled. And the second point is actually that actually human being is all the time living in extremely closed environment. First of all, we forget that we spend a huge amount of time, at least 9 months, in the uterus of our mother. So we are like, we first came or become, we first become something alive within an extremely tiny environment, which is the body of our mother. And we start in this body to perceive the world. So this is a very important aspect to think, also because Andrea spoke a lot about psychology. I think that all those kind of environments, even when you are in a boat, I spent a lot of time. I spent 10 days on a tiny boat in Patagonia this winter, and I really had the impression to be within the body of, also because of the sound of the water, of a huge mother. But this is also psychologically something you have to, in a way, take into account. Another, in a way, evidence of the fact that we are spending a lot of time in very close and tiny environment, it's the bed. So a bed is a space where we are not moving, or we are not moving physically, and we start to dream. So, but bed is another, is another kind of paradigm, to think what does it mean to be happy, as Charlotte said, within a very close and within a closed and very tiny environment. Another element which is close and where we live all the time is the clothings. So every single clothes we wear is also something which adheres to our body, and a lot of times doesn't. For instance, the shoe. Let's just think of shoes. it doesn't allow us to really move within it. So this is also something that could be interesting to think about when you are designing this kind of spaces, or when you're designing spaces that has to produce happiness, because clothings are producing a huge amount of happiness, exactly like bed, by the way, because dreaming, having sex, I don't know, it's like something that produces normally a little bit of pleasure. And another element I was thinking about happiness and close environment is video games, because I mean, I'm fortunately for work, I'm a little bit addicted to games. And when you're doing games, when you're using video games, you are not moving at all. So you are, in a way, you are experiencing a different form of space, but without having the need of moving your body so much, apart from perhaps eyes and hands. So this is also something I was thinking about. The question you asked.
I would like to go deep into your discipline, which is philosophy again, and then ask the same question to Andreas. It's about your point of views, both of you. What is or what are roles of humanities, such as philosophy, social science, history, in the space exploration race, which is still now really held by engineering science and computer science and rocket science, but does space exploration needs philosophy?
Everything needs everything. I mean, it's a pity when something which is like human life, because space exploration is just human life. It's not something different. It's human life just in different places. But it's a pity that we don't, or if the design of the spaces or the thinking about the spaces is just it's just given to engineering, in the same sense that if you're producing a city just through engineering, you are producing social catastrophes. It's quite clear, because human life is so complex to. Not because, of course, I have a huge respect for engineers. It's not that I'm not despising them. It's just because human life has so much, it's so complex and it's so full of different aspects, and you cannot make human life possible without taking into account all the different aspects. And it's not human life, it's just taking one single aspect. And that's why so you need philosophers, artists, I don't know, designer, architects, sociologists, but every kind of knowledge is important to understand what is happening in life, and every single form of knowledge, not just knowledge, because it's not just science, it's also other kind of knowledge. Game is also knowledge, and you cannot live on, I mean, it's not the question of being on a space or on Earth. Without playing, for instance, there is no life. Without music, there is no life. Without yeah.
I would fully agree to that, what you're saying. I think we as humans, we can't go anywhere without taking our humanity with us, and that includes all. The situation we have maybe at the moment, that this going to space, we're talking about pioneering missions. We're not in a status yet where it's completely normal, where you book a flight to the moon in 1 week, you go there and you do your job, you have your meetings and you come back. We're very far from that. And that's maybe why it's so, because also it's kind of very technical, it's so engineering dominated at the moment. But still, we are flying people around in space. And these people, they have needs already now. They have needs for beauty. And they have needs to survive, and I'm happy the engineers are doing a good job on that, but already now, I think they also have needs for beauty, and I think that's why we as designers and architects, as technically dominated the field is, there's already room now for us to come in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andreas. Do you have any question about that matter of joy, happiness, and cooperation between various disciplines? No? Oh yes, Claire. Either French, English, Italian, German. Feel free.
Yeah, thank you both of you and your points on this topic. I was wondering also about repetition. So we talked about the sensory deprivation, but then there is also this extreme repetition and the sort of lack of change and of chance. So where does chance come in, or the element of the imprévu, which can be danger in such a situation, but also is an extreme impact, sensory and intellectual, and challenging, and so which would then bring input and sensations and feelings. So I was wondering if this can be like consumption or by reading or consuming works of art, or how do you break the habit, which can be very deadening?
So Andreas allowed me to start answer you, right? And then you can complete. I do think, so maybe I'm wrong, just correct me. From an operational point of view, unpredictable is still dangerous. Because you can't have great news coming from the moon like, hey, a meteorite just fallen on us. But I remember one of student projects, either from Eindhoven or somewhere in Europe, when I was myself with master degree writing my thesis, and it was in the scope of Mars 500, the mission of simulation mission in Mosbar, and these students suggest to give fake astronauts that were locked for 500 days in that capsule in Mosbar, suggest to bring them their clothes and underwear on a kind of random base. It means that as an astronaut, you would have, I don't know, white, gray, blue, whatever underwears, okay? And once in a while, you will have like Hawaiian shorts or pink underwear or, I don't know, blinking t-shirts. So this is the kind of unpredictable that was thought, but from like a design proposition. Also, yeah, there is unpredictable in boxes, in the ESS. Maybe you should talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you plan such a mission, you have to build in this controlled unpredictability, which is something which is not done yet, because we do short missions. But if you go to Mars, you definitely, some people will have to think hard about that. It's a very good point you make. What plays chance, the unexpected in our world, in our being? I think you can produce it with art, with kinetic sculptures, maybe. You can produce it with your underwear, as you say. So, but this is a really important element, because you could also say, one thing I didn't mention, if you have a Mars mission, you could say, okay, you spend 2 years, okay, you surf on the internet, you chat, you play real-time games or whatever, you talk with your family, with your friends, no problem. It is a problem because one signal from Earth to Mars takes 20 minutes. So if you want to talk with somebody on Mars, you say something, it's passing 20 minutes, he hears it, or she, and then answers, so 40 minutes later you get an answer. You can't have a conversation like this. So you even deprived from family from your Earth context, and this is even posing a bigger problem. But I'm interested to hear what Emanuele thinks about the role of the unexpected in life.
Yeah, I think it's a very good say that if you're just programming unexpected experiences, then it's closer to Squid Games that to real chance. So it cannot be a question of putting pink sockets or whatever and let people discover that someone thought about making to them a surprise from this point of view, because this is not chance. It's just like almost a form of how can I say sadism of the one who controlled and designed everything, exactly like in those kind of literature like Squid Games or the other kind of TV series or comics. But why it's not enough? Because real chance is always linked with agency, and it's exactly what I pointed out before. So the question is, if in order to transform those kind of spaces into domestic spaces, you do have to open space to real agency, which is behavior, which is not just in a way putting in order back or again the situation or executing some orders or tasks, but being creative or having a creative relationship to the space itself in its essence. Otherwise, it becomes impossible to be happy and also to experience a real like unpredictability, because there is unpredictability, which is not tragic, which is not like the destiny, only if this unpredictability is linked with the fact that you did something and you cannot control the consequence of your deed, which is the perfect definition of agency, freedom.
Just Emanuele,
space of action, which is...
Emanuele, sorry, I think we all need a lexical focus. When you are talking about opening to agency, it's agentivité. It would be agentivité in French, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because agency and space agency, I just prefer to translate to you here.
No, it's a technical term. Yeah,
voilà, c'est l'agentivité. Et donc l'agentivité en français, c'est comment vous vivez votre environnement, etc. C'est aussi l'appropriation dont a parlé Emanuele.
Mais l'agency en anglais signifie aussi agentivité, surtout. C'est pas une mauvaise usage. C'est agency. It's ouais.
Non, c'est pas du tout un mauvais usage. Au contraire, c'est juste moi qui prends soin. Parce que je suis encore un peu prof. Je me sens encore un peu prof à Camondo, même si ça fait 2-3 mois que je suis partie. Juste pour assurer une sorte de traduction simultanée pour les termes épistémologiques un petit peu denses. Voilà. Merci beaucoup.
On peut parler des libertés, c'est pas, comment dire, c'est juste, l'idée c'est qu'il faut, pour qu'on puisse se sentir chez soi, dans un lieu, il faut pouvoir avoir l'expérience de tout refaire en fait dans ce lieu, ou de changer la forme de l'espace, de changer la disposition, de pouvoir d'avoir contribué d'une manière ou de l'autre à la structure de cet espace. Autrement, on n'est pas dans un lieu comme chez soi, on est dans un hôtel. Et à l'hôtel, on peut y rester, comment dire, une nuit, 2 nuits, mais après, on veut sortir. On a besoin de retrouver justement cette liberté qui nous conduit vers l'imprévu, comme je n'ai pas entendu le nom de la personne qui a posé la question, mais comme il disait à juste titre à cette question, ça fait partie de l'imprévu. Comment dire, pourquoi c'est important de percevoir l'imprévu? Parce qu'on a besoin de faire l'expérience de la liberté. Et sans cet imprévu, on a l'impression d'être dans un contexte totalitaire, en fait.
So, do you have both, Andreas and Emanuele, an example or imagination of the worst unpredictable? Not dramatic, okay? Not as if the moon base would explode or something like that, but in a very routine and daily life, what can be the worst and the best? Let's make the question a little more trusting. The worst and best thing that can happen in a routine. Andreas and then Emanuele, maybe.
Well, I maybe just can report a little bit from what I'm reading, and in the shuttle, the toilet, here we are, was a piece of high engineering, because you have to replace gravity and water with air suction and centrifuges, basically. And so the toilet on the space shuttle was really a machine. And sometimes it didn't work correctly. And I don't remember if there was really a mission abortion or not, but it's really when the toilet doesn't work, you have to stop the mission within the day. You can take plastic bags for a while, but you create such a mess that you really have to come down. And you're lucky you're so close to the Earth with the shuttle. So these are unexpected things which we take for granted here on Earth, which suddenly can become absolutely mission critical. Maybe the positive thing is what astronauts, they love to do every 3 minutes, and they have a very dense working plan. Every 3 minutes they go to the cupola, to the window, and watch the planet, take pictures of the planet, because it's such a beautiful and such also what astronauts report, important emotional connection to home, which they experience. So and I can't just guess how beautiful it must be to look down from up there. I'm flying paraglider, but that's way lower than what the astronauts see.
Yeah.
Without being dramatic, being fair.
No, but I would say that it's difficult to name one single experience the best or the worst cases, because the quality of the unpredictable events is always defined by the context. As exactly Andreas said, I mean, something that could be totally normal on Earth becomes dramatic on space and the other way around. So that's why perhaps what is inevitable is the fact that it shows that the most important quality, human quality to have in front of those unpredictable events is the ability to I don't know how to translate, because a difficult word to translate in English, but to bricolage. So to react, to invent a new practice in front of something which is new, and where you cannot apply the methods you normally apply in this kind of situation. The bricolage is exactly that, the invention of a new practice when something happens that impedes you to apply exactly the instruction and the rules you are normally applying in the situation. And I think that in general, I mean, for instance, at school, that should be the first thing to learn and to teach. But in general, perhaps we should reconsider again how is important this ability to invent, because also normally when you manage to bricolate something, you are so happy. When you're in front of something that went wrong, and you invent like the solution to this new problem, you are so happy, you are so proud of you. So that's why perhaps what is interesting could be also to invent and to like, as I said before, also to think how bricolage could be possible also on space. I mean, of course, because Andrea, I never was that, but Andreas showed us also in a very fascinating way how they are ils ont tout le temps en train de bricoler, les astronautes. But still, perhaps things should be re-described from this point of view.
So, Emanuele, as you mentioned, education. This is like a great transition for me, since we are today welcomed by Camondo Méditerranée in Toulon, a school of interior architecture and design. I would like to know from both of you again, Andreas and Emanuele, why, if it's the case, why it's interesting for students of that generation to go on study or thinking or be interested in space exploration. Does it have meanings? From, again, your point of view, are architect, designer, and also philosophy. So, Andreas.
Yes, maybe more from the position of architectural teacher, because I also educated students. And obviously, other than artificial intelligence, there are not many jobs for space designers at the moment, maybe in the future somewhere. So, so you could say, why should you educate space designers? Which is true, maybe it's not making your professional life, but the education as such, I find, for the educational process of a designer and an architect or designer who designs spaces, I find it very, very important and fruitful, because going in such an extreme environment, which doesn't allow any room for excuses or wrong planning, you are forced to really think about what meaning the spaces have. You are forced to think about how does technically a toilet work, but also what meaning going to the toilet or doing your personal hygiene has in your daily routine. That moment where you are alone, maybe you see yourself naked in a mirror, or to clean yourself, what meaning does it have? And psychologically it can get a really strong meaning. So I think as an architect, as a designer, you really have to go back to the archetypes of what does it mean to cook your food, to cook for others, to be in your personal room, to have your working place or not have it. It's not that you just you place a table in a space and you write working space next to it, and that's your definition, because that working space may be a kitchen space at other time of the day, and you really you have to go back to basics. Because it's so extreme, and that's what education is so fascinating, because you can't just copy paste other drawings and put something together, because you have to raise these questions and look from out of the box.
Yeah, there is a huge interest. The problem is that the interest that normally this kind of topics had since the 60s, 70s, which were also linked with science fiction and with cinema. They became extremely problematic in the last years because of the ecological environment. So there is a huge opposition to even to planting this kind of research because of the argument that we are destroying the planet. We have first of all to spend money to respect this planet, and so from this point of there is a huge in order to re-compensate, legitimate this kind of spam and artists. It's a lot of people say and this Spanish that we can speak now with Zoom or with a smart, so that's also important to remember whenever we are thinking about the future of this kind of education. But I would say that a point which could be interesting to raise is the fact that we already live on space because we consider that the space we are living as not the space we are. It's interesting because Andrea started with Galileo. And in a way, we never accepted the idea of Galileo, which is the idea that, first of all, Earth is already a piece of space, so a piece of the sky. There is not such a thing as this Earth, which is the sky, already on the sky, in the middle of the space, and also from our feet to our head. this is also a template. So we're in the sky is just easier to be here because of gravity and because there is a lot of other people and there is water and so on. But we are already in a sort of spaceship, as by the way, as everybody knows, Buckminster Fuller wrote in the last century. So from this point of view, perhaps should be important to stress again that, as also Andreas said, in a way, this kind of studies concerns just the life, exactly the life we have on Earth or we have on a daily basis, but in the extreme form. And this is also a very interesting, from a philosophical point of view, it's an extremely interesting idea. So it's not a different quality of life. It's not a life in another environment. It's exactly the same environment, but it's extreme. So the different, it's not a quality, it's just a question of intensity. Yeah. And that's why, in a way, that's why, and as Andrea said, it's so important. It's even essential, even in order to understand what is happening every single day here.
Yeah, thank you. I never thought we never accept Galileo's idea of not being the center of something, but it's true that I think everybody as individual is living the whole universe as a matter of human centrality. Maybe not Earth centrality from a cosmic point of view of reality, but from what we are human, we must be in the center.
No, but also just like that, but also we are denying all the time that we are already occupying the sky. It's a space region. So I am now in the sky because I'm not in the ground. I'm not on the ground. So I'm just moving in the sky right now is exactly like you. And it's never accepted that we remain for permission of, like, we remain followers of Ptolemaios. Anyway,
thank you very much. Okay, so I just would like to thank you both again. Thank you very much for this morning of talks and philosophical or architectural exchange. I was very happy of this talk. Do I give the microphone to someone official to end the talk? Or... Non, c'est bon. Écoutez, merci.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to thank you. Thank you, Andreas, for so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of you for inviting me.
Yeah, and we'll be very, it will be a pleasure to welcome you again. I mean, really, for real, in either Camondo Toulon or Camondo Paris. Bon, merci beaucoup à tous et à toutes d'être venus ce matin. Merci de votre patience, de votre curiosité à propos des études spatiales. Donc, comme vous l'a expliqué Annalisa, c'était le troisième volet de ce qu'on a initié. Le troisième, elle a dit. Le deuxième. Le troisième du projet de recherche. Oui, c'est ça, le troisième du projet de recherche sur la claustrophilie qu'on avait initié à l'occasion du confinement. Alors, ce qui était, pour vous resituer un petit peu les choses, qui était assez inattendu de travailler comme chercheur sur le confinement, bien avant 2019. Et quand avec Alexis Markovics, ça nous est tombé dessus, comme sur chacun d'entre nous, quelles que soient nos origines, nos occupations, on en a fait un cas d'étude. Et je voulais remercier Alexis et également Annalisa de leur curiosité et de leur confiance sur le sujet. Donc je suis ravie de voir que la claustrophilie a encore de beaux jours devant elle. Voilà, merci beaucoup à tous et à toutes.